I'm the Reverend Allison Miller, and I have the privilege of serving the Morristown Unitarian Fellowship. We are a spiritually alive, radically inclusive, and justice-centered community that gathers to inspire, connect, and serve together in ways that lead to greater healing for ourselves, our neighbors, all beings, and our earth. We are grateful to participate in this collaborative summer, and we affirm that we are in this together.
Hi, I'm the Reverend Emilie Boggis.
I'm Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner.
I'm Dr. Tuli Patel.
We are the leadership team
at the Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation, located
in Summit, New Jersey.
Our mission is to be radically inclusive,
to feed the human spirit,
and to heal the world.
We affirm
that we are
in this together.
I am Reverend Scott Samler Michael, he, him, his.
And I'm Reverend Anya Sandler Michael, she, her, hers. And we are senior co-ministers at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation at Montclair. Grounded in faith, we come together to nurture the soul, inspire hope, and bring into being a more just and loving world.
And we affirm that we are all in this together.
Greetings from Lincroft, New Jersey. I am the Reverend Virginia Jaraka Ernst, co-minister at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Monmouth County.
And I am co-minister the Reverend Craig Rubano. At UUCMC, our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world.
And we are in this together.
Good morning, Beacon Unitarian. This is Jermaine Kripe checking in from my house in Maplewood with my family.
This is Rick.
Alice. And we are here to light your chalice this morning. So please, wherever you are, kindle a light using these following words. We light this chalice for the light of truth and reality, the warmth of love and compassion, and the fire of commitment and promise. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Open your ears to the song. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and
So, hello, kids. Today we want to spend some time talking about what spiritual practices you engage in during times of stress or even regular times. So really what we want you to think about, what is the one thing that you do daily, every day, that if you didn't do it, it would feel weird or strange?
I have a discussion with my stuffed animals, and then I agree with them, and then I read a book, and then go downstairs and calm down and apologize.
Without reading, I think I would be a lot more tense and stressed out than I was with reading, because personally for me it's relaxing to just get lost in my own head and be able to read the book and be like implanted inside the story, and kind of think along with the different characters' perspectives. I read a lot of fiction, by the way. So yeah, without reading, I think I'd be a lot more stressed, a lot more tense, and happiness wouldn't come to me as often. So
Whenever I practice martial arts or like I do a small indoor workout, I'm kind of like just getting rid of all this excess energy I have from like being stuck inside, and it feels relaxing because then after, like, I feel like my brain is moving like more slow, and that that it just makes everything feel easier.
So something that I usually do pretty much every day is that I always listen to music, mostly calm music, something to like help me relax, help me start my day. Or if like something happened during the day, like it'll help me like calm down and like help me not get mad or stressed or something.
Thank you all for sharing. That was great.
For some people, what they do daily and what keeps them grounded, what we call spiritual practices, is lighting a chalice.
Yes, such a wonderful act where the bowl or the holder represents the people who have gathered, even if they are in our imaginations or our memories, and the flame is the light that each one of us has within us.
Julie, I've often wondered, are we the only ones who light a chalice?
What a great question, Jermaine. And it's interesting to think about the religions of the world. I know that in Hinduism, that a flame is used every time we do an arti, which is you take a plate and there's a flame on it, and you circle the deity or the person or whoever you're wanting to honor. It's a ritual that you do in worship. And for Zoroastrians, I know that their places of worship are called fire temples because the flame stays lit within that temple.
Thanks for reminding me about the religions of the world, Julie. I know that Christians light candles regularly as important rituals in their worship services or at certain holidays. And then our Jewish cousins, the lighting of the Sabbath candles every week when they engage in their Friday night start of Shabbat.
Yes, and in Buddhism, the light is often used to speak in terms of enlightenment, like the clarity of mind that you can achieve through meditation and reflection. So even the word enlightenment makes in reference to light, right? So it seems like the lighting of a flame isn't unique to us as Unitarian Universalists, and certainly taking the time to learn about the religions of the world and the practices that they engage in is really important to us as Unitarian Universalists. In fact, isn't it one of our sources?
Sauces or sources, what'd you say?
Sources, not sauces.
Okay.
So we have not just 7 principles, but each one of them is rooted in a source, in a place of inspiration, and there are 6 of them. The one that we're talking about today is wisdom from the world's religion, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life.
So kids, when you're having dinner with your loved ones, ask them what they do to keep calm. What practices do they engage in? And you can share what you do daily. That would feel strange if you didn't do it. So share that with them. And ask if they know about any other religions of the world and if they light flames, and then you can share what you learned today. Bye.
Bye.
We light our chalice to kindle the flame within us. And from our chalice, each week in our candle lighting, we light candles from that source of love and being to bring our attention and intention to names of people we love, people experiencing joy and sorrow. We bring our intention and attention to places that are celebrating and that are mourning. And so this morning, we light candles from our chalice and bring our candles of attention and intention into the community of Unitarian Universalism.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul.
We begin our morning meditation by finding ourselves in a comfortable position, either seated or lying down, perhaps standing, a position that we can hold for a short period of time, 3 to 5 minutes. We can gently close our eyes or gaze at a spot in front of us or consider a focal point such as a lit candle or chalice. Settling in, we take measure of where we are in our physical bodies, taking stock of our physical, internal weather system and climate. Perhaps there is anxiety or restlessness or excitement or nothing at all. Whatever it is, we accept it, we acknowledge it, suspending for a short period of time that analytical part of our brains. Moving our attention now to where we are seated, noticing our feet, noticing our hands, noticing the sounds that might fall upon our ears. If it helps to name, you may do so, but not attaching any judgments. The sound that falls upon your ears, perhaps traffic or birds, is not good or bad, it just is. And now shifting our attention to our breath, in and out through the nose, following the trajectory of the breath. On the inhale, the breath enters. It is slightly cool at the tip of the nostrils. It goes down past the back of the throat, down into the trachea and into the lungs. And on the out breath, the journey is reversed. You may wish to focus on the very tip of your nose and notice little things about the breath, such as the temperature. When it enters, it is cool. When it leaves your body, it is warm, having been warmed by our body organs. If your mind wanders, as it will, gently bring it back to focus on the breath, in and out through the nose. In through the nostrils, past the trachea, down into the lungs, and on the out breath, the journey is reversed. If there are distractions, perhaps children, perhaps sounds from your household. Accept them. These are a normal part of our living conditions, and we meditate through them. Meditation is available to us at any point in our day. As we practice, we will move from effort to ease and step into what is called continuity of practice, so that every moment there is awareness. We engage in these practices of meditation and awareness so as to build focus, so as to build concentration, and to give our mind an opportunity to expand, to consider other possibilities. In the Buddhist religion, when we jump from thought to thought, from idea to idea, which is natural, this is called monkey mind. And so we spend our time focusing on our breath, building our capacity for awareness. Most meditation practices are breath-based. So for those who are challenged in their breath, either because of age or because they might be suffering in some way, you are invited to focus on sensations in the body. You can focus on body temperature, or the base of your feet, or your palms open, and what the sensations are in your open palms. Whatever practice you choose, for a short period of time, the important thing is to stay with observation, without analysis, without judgment. Taking a deep breath in, you are invited to return to your present surroundings, noticing once again bird sound, where your feet are, where your hands are. Bring your attention back to your breath. Taking a deep breath in, you are invited to gently open your eyes if they are closed, or make some small movements to bring yourself back to the present moment.
Good morning. I'm Missy Rogers, and I serve as the co-chair of Beacon Stewardship Team in Summit. Before I arrived in New Jersey, I lived in California and attended the Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church in Southern California. I attended there the first time with a thought in my head of, is there something about being human that maybe I haven't been attending to in my life? And from day one, I realized this is the place for me to further contemplate that. So when I moved to New Jersey and knew only less than a handful of people, I started attending Beacon because I knew that I also needed to start building community. And it has been a lovely place to continue down my path and to build community. This morning, we invest in the power of our transformative communities in Summit, in Morristown, in Montclair, and Lincroft through our offering. Your contribution of every size empowers us to live out our mission more fully. We give thanks for Unitarian Universalism and for you, for who you are and the gifts that you bring to this world. We give thanks.
My family has a list of household chores, and each one of us takes responsibility for a few chores. It's how we know who's responsible. What is not on my list is snow shoveling. Why? Because my back seizes up in spasms. I'll be walking from one room to the next, and out of the blue, there it is. I can barely walk. So I knew what I was in for when I found myself shoveling snow on the walk on one stark, cold, blue-skied morning. Our designated snow shoveler was conveniently away. I scrolled through my list of podcasts and I clicked on the latest in the vain hope that I might catch up. It was an interview with Rebecca Lyons. Lyons is a superstar in a lot of ways. She and her spouse launched a fantastic nonprofit as they nurture and care for not one, but 4 children. In addition, Rebecca Lyons writes best-selling books, speaks nationally before packed crowds, pre-pandemic, of course, and has appeared on multiple news channels. She is everything that women are applauded for these days. But here's the thing, and also the reason that I actually clicked on the interview. Lyons was not being interviewed for her next amazing professional feat. No, she was opening up about living with ongoing, recurring panic attacks. Her first attack happened on a plane. The next, a train, followed by an elevator. Rooted in claustrophobia, this was something that she could not explain. She had never experienced it before, and moreover, she could not control it. She writes, the anxiety was so intense physically. Your body is acting and responding as if you are being held at gunpoint. The adrenaline of your heart is just beating out of your chest. You are sweating profusely. You can't even find your words. It's just sheer terror embodied. I stopped shoveling in that moment. And I felt the muscle memory of my own panic attacks in her descriptions. I had my first attack in the months after my second daughter was born. It came suddenly and out of the blue, just like those back spasms. It was not something that I knew anything about, nor would I ever. I'll just say, normally I would pride myself on how strong and courageous I was, and it brought me to my knees. One thought lodged itself into my brain. One day, you won't exist. Now, this is not a thought that I hadn't thought before, of course. I had accepted it, of course. What was new was the physical suffering. My brain went into hyperdrive of terror, with the physical sensation of despair that just never wouldn't lift. I couldn't make it stop. I was absolutely at its mercy. Because you see, at some points in our lives, fear is like a slow burn rumbling just underneath the surface. We might not even realize that it's there. But at other times, fear comes out as sheer, embodied panic. So friends, tell me, how is fear alive in your life right now? I ask because there is simply so much to fear. Turn to anyone and ask them, what scares you the most right now? I'm not going to name all of the things that I have heard from people as I ask that question, because I don't want to traumatize or re-traumatize you. You've got the news for that. You can simply turn it on. But if you ask the question, and if the people around you dare to be honest and to be vulnerable, you'll discover that everyone has a different slice of fear pie, and it's all real. Perhaps the hardest part is that human beings aren't our best selves when we live out of a place of fear. In fact, fear cuts us off from the source of being and our source of belonging. As the Thai Buddhist teacher Ajahn Badasa says, the mind composed of wrong view suffers from spiritual disease. It sees falsely, and seeing falsely causes it to think falsely, to speak falsely, and to act falsely. Fear is the antithesis of faith. That's why the angels greet human beings with the words, "Fear not, fear not." That's our sacred task as human beings, to fear not, to dare to do so. Now, I can hear you. I hear it in my own mind. Right, fear not. How do we do that? In my own ongoing healing from embodied fear and trauma, I learned that my impulse is to fight or to flight. To either fight the fear head on or to run like hell. How do I make it stop? How do I make it stop? However, one of the ways that I've learned to truly fear not is to face it with compassion and to ask with curiosity, what do I have to learn from you? What do you have to teach me? Now, this cannot happen in the grip of an attack. I have learned sometimes we're too paralyzed to do much at that moment. Compassion and curiosity, that happens in my daily spiritual practices. It happens when I create intentional time for rest and renewal each day. Just like I create an intentional time to stretch my back and to make it powerful because I know one day I am going to have to shovel the snow and I need my back to be strong. The same is true of my spirit. I need it to be strong because fear is there. In fact, in anything that I do in a single day, including loving my family, the single most important thing I can do is my spiritual practice because it helps me love. It reconnects me with the source of our collective being. It puts me in touch with the places where I hurt and struggle, alongside the places where I know abundant joy. Now, spiritual practices are not one size fits all. I wish that I could just give you one and say, go for it, have fun. Throughout the years, I have struggled with what works for me, and I know so many others who have. And I've discovered that different practices work in different seasons of life. What worked in my 20s does not work for me now because I am a different person dealing with different things. But that's the beauty as well. There are so many pathways into reconnecting with our wholeness and our knowing. Rabbi Rami Shapiro, who is the founder of the Order of the Holy Rascal, says that spiritual practice is more conspiratorial than inspirational. He writes, it conspires to strip away everything that you use to maintain the illusion of certainty, security, and self-identity. A good spiritual practice intends to free us. And if so much of what we are setting out to do as a movement is to debunk white supremacy culture, we're going to need a spiritual practice that teaches us how to free ourselves. To live out of our shared Unitarian Universalist values, we will have to engage our fear deeply and profoundly because it's scary to live as a whole person. It is. It's scary to face our traumas, the traumas that we hold in our bodies, as well as the traumas that are left to us by our ancestors. It's scary to face our country's evils. It is scary to face the change that is required, both as individuals and as a collective. It will require us daily to fill the well within us of courage. If this summer is offering you a time of rest and renewal, we invite you to lean into a spiritual practice. Do some research, ask around, listen inwardly. If there is a practice that you hear about that your heart or your head or your body cries out, yes, that's it, listen and engage. If there is a practice that you hear about that your heart or your head or your body cries out, oh my gosh, that terrifies me, listen, because that might be exactly what you need. I invite you to listen and then to make a promise. We Unitarian Universalists are good at making promises. We are people of the covenant. Make your promise and set your intentions. Set an intention to writing as a spiritual practice daily for the next 6 months, to meditate daily for the next 6 months, to laugh daily for the next 6 months, to watch the sunset for the next 6 months, to run for the next 6 months. Whatever practice it is, engage it wholeheartedly. And then find a community that supports you. Of course, there is your Unitarian Universalist community, because you are going to need them to cheer you on and also to listen patiently as you grumble. Writer Bianco Sparancino writes, "Sometimes your mountain to climb is made up of weekdays and months, made up of pushing yourself forward even when you want to nestle into the past. Sometimes courage isn't made up of war and bloodshed. Sometimes courage isn't made up of combat. Sometimes courage is a quiet fight, a dim softness within you that flickers even on your darkest day and reminds you that you are strong, that you are growing, and that there is hope." So, beloved, tell me your fear, and I will tell you mine, and together, let us dare to fear not. Amen.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this fear will. I know this fear will. I know my soul will. I know that wings. I know that wings. I know that wings. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my fear will. I know my fear will. I know my soul. I know that wings. I know that wings. I know this wings. I know this wings. I know this rose. I know my fear. I know my fear. I know my soul. I know this wings. I know this wings. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose will open. This rose will open. This rose will open. Open, 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 open.
When I went into seminary at Harvard Divinity School, Carl Scoville was and still is a bit of a legend there. For 32 years of his 45-plus year ministry, Reverend Scoville served as the minister at King's Chapel in Boston. Carl had been mentor to countless Unitarian Universalist ministers. And so when in my first year of seminary, a friend of a friend who was a mentee of Carl invited a bunch of us in order to meet with him just a few moments before he was to begin a retreat, we all immediately said, yes. I remember the winding trip to the wilderness, or what seemed like the wilderness, of western Massachusetts. It was deep in the midst of winter, and as we got out of the car, you could hear the crunch of the snow and the howl of a proper New England wind. We were all bundled up, and I remember the wool of my scarf was above my nose, and I had just about this much visibility to make out a figure in a doorway. It wasn't until I was nearly upon him that I realized it was Carl. As we sat down in this expansive retreat center that smelled like pine and must and meaning-making, Carl began to engage us in all manner of questions. I was at a point in my life where I felt incredibly unsure of myself, and so I didn't say much. Somehow the conversation turned to spiritual practice and the chalice, and Carl kind of rolled his eyes. I remember him saying, "Why is it that we Unitarian Universalists have to create paragraphs just to explain a ritual? Why can't we turn to deep and ancient ways of knowing with new revelation?" Immediately, it was almost as if what I was hearing couldn't compute. I, after all, in my student ministry, had just created an elaborate ritual, including paper and water and crumpling and all manner of steps that were intimately explained in the order of service. And here Carl questioned even how we kindled the light of the chalice? Oh, no! At once, it reminded me of when I was a teenager in high school and I helped to load a dishwasher at my friend's house after dinner. I remember her looking at me, baffled at the way I would load a dishwasher. And then, very kindly, she redid the entire thing for me. And of course, her method was far more effective, but I had been unable to completely see any other way to load a dishwasher. Or in college, when I was belting out the lyrics to Big Yellow Taxi on my dorm floor. You know, hey farmer, farmer, put away your DVDs. Like, put away your movies and those Seinfeld episodes and get out into nature again. That's right. You know it's DDT, the pesticide. It was a turning point. When I encountered Reverend Scoville's words years later, they spoke to me then, and they still do now. Some things he writes in this Berry Street lecture delivered in 1994. Some things we do not surmise but know. We know that we are finite, that we have an end. We know that behind every discovery and disclosure lies a mystery. And we know that we are free to make decisions and act, and yet our freedom is circumscribed by genes, by fate, by destiny, by history. These things we know, mystery, energy, order, fate, freedom, finitude, but together they do not constitute a faith. We also know that spirituality is not simply the product of fear, frustration, or bad digestion. We know that our yearning for meaning and fulfillment is given in our very being. So follow that yearning, need, reaching to its source, to our creation, to our createdness, and surmise with me, if you will, that this yearning, this reaching, this need is no accident, but a reflection of that reality from which we come. I believe in a portion of that lecture and in the conversation with that group of seminarians, Reverend Scoville was trying to teach us that Unitarian Universalism is not some new faith, but a new revelation of an ancient yearning, a following of the thread of knowing. Spiritual practice, beloved, is following a thread of knowing. I remember in the Charlotte uprising in 2016 when young Black queer activists gathered in the streets on the third night after Justin Carr had been murdered. And there they brought sage, they brought drums, and with this stream of following an inward and communal knowing, began to reconstitute the pathways we walked, where generations of injustice had occurred. Follow the knowing. Zen Buddhist priest Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams teaches you, just as you are in your life right here, right now, all there is here. All you need to know. You don't have to do anything special. Mostly you have to be open to meeting face to face and even dancing with the truth that pertains to your life right now. You have to find a way to collect your fractured pieces, examine them, and then accept them as part of who you are. Spiritual practice is about transformation, but it's also, and more importantly, about working with what is. And so, beloved, we do not flee the scene of our humanity, but these great spiritual teachers tell us that what we need, that the yearning, is found in the facing of what is. I know we can spend a lifetime of fleeing. I was one who spent a lifetime of fleeing. I was the one who in seminary would easily preach about a love that saved all, the universalist truth. And yet deep within my own being, I suspected that I was the exception to this teaching of universalism. And so I tried to work out my salvation with a rugged individualism, with a way of doing everything on my own, and disdain and rejection of help from any corner. And so it was I found myself in my first ministry, in a relationship that had ended, because of all the truths across 8 years I couldn't face. And at last, a partner who had an affair, who sought comfort with someone else, and I was not present. I was sick with an infection that the doctors could not find the source of, and I was deeply in debt, and the bills were piling up. And at last, after years of pushing away any spiritual practice that would have me encounter the what is of my own being, that would have me have a moment to embrace and allow myself to be held by this love, I at last picked up the phone and called a colleague. I need help, I said. And that first sentence led to walks, led to times of stillness, led to long phone conversations, and at last allowed me to be able to sit with what was and to begin to change. Muhammad Ali says that it isn't the mountain ahead that's wearing you out, it is the pebble in your shoe. I was being worn out by pebbles, by small daily stones that I was refusing to even acknowledge their presence. All the manifestations within me of what some might call the master's tools, and I kept trying to be in the world as if I wasn't in pain. But when I said, I need help, And I discovered spiritual practice, not a kind of spiritual practice that is a fleeing for an enlightenment that is outside of one's body or apart from all the stickiness and complexity of one's life, but was distinctly in the body and in this life and in community. That spiritual practice began to grind those pebbles to dust. So beloved, and I use those words intentionally, each of you receiving my words, know you are beloved. And so beloved, I implore you, for the years march on and the pebbles add up. Now is the time for each of us in our communities to at last embrace this love, to encounter spiritual practice that does not divorce us from our bodies or divorce us from the complexity of what is, but grants us the courage to face it. The expanse of the beach gives testimony to the power beyond the single drop to grind all of the pebbles and stones into dust. The resurgence of a sunrise at dawn renews the pledge that the light shall return. And the simplest of spiritual acts without paragraph explanations, the kindling of a light, reminds us of the ancient task to follow the thread of knowing to the new revelation, to build beloved community. So beloved, may we follow that thread of knowing. So may we kindle the light. So may we journey across these stones together to grind them down to nothing but dust and bear witness to the sun's return.
7, 8.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land
Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker teaches that alone, none of us can save the world. But together, that is another possibility waiting. So let us journey with this faith to follow the thread of knowing with courage and with love that together we might yet savor and save this one.